Story disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction and is intended for entertainment purposes only. The content includes dark themes, horror elements, and fictional depictions of rituals and sacrifices that are purely imaginative and not reflective of any real-life practices or beliefs. Viewer discretion is advised. This video is not suitable for younger audiences, and parental guidance is recommended. The story does not endorse or promote any harmful behavior, violence, or dangerous activities. Please note that all characters, events, and settings are entirely fictional and created for the purpose of storytelling. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events, is purely coincidental. As Jason and his friends continue their relentless battle against the Shadow Collective, the tension rises, and dark forces close in on them. Every step forward reveals deeper connections and more sinister secrets about the cult's power, testing their loyalty, courage, and resilience. When betrayal from unexpected places brings shadows right to Jason's doorstep, the stakes are higher than ever. With trust wavering and time running out, Jason must confront his past and gather every ounce of strength to face an impending storm that threatens to engulf them all. Will they expose the darkness before it consumes them, or is it too late to escape its grasp? Stay tuned as Jason's fight for freedom and light reaches its most dangerous chapter yet. The tension in the warehouse thickened as Jason felt the weight of the leader's words settle over him. His heart raced with a mix of fear and disbelief. How did she know his name? Panic surged through him, and he grabbed Ed's arm, ready to make a run for it. But before they could move, the crowd began to chant, a rhythmic incantation that filled the room with an eerie energy. Jason felt a pull, as if the shadows were beckoning him, urging him to join them. He fought against the sensation, focusing on his goal, to expose the cult and reclaim his life. "Stay close," Jason whispered to Ode, his voice shaky. They maneuvered through the crowd, trying to blend in while keeping an eye on the leader. As the meeting continued, Jason overheard snippets of conversations around him. Members whispered about the sacred ritual and how it was crucial for solidifying their power. A chill ran down Jason's spine. He realized he was in the midst of something far more sinister than he had imagined. Suddenly, the chanting intensified, and the lights dimmed even further. The shadows danced along the walls, twisting and swirling, almost as if they were alive. Jason's heart pounded as he caught glimpses of the members, their eyes gleaming with a manic energy. "Tonight, we reclaim what is ours," the leader shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We will show those who defy us the true strength of the shadows." In that moment, Jason's fear morphed into something else, a fierce determination. He couldn't let the shadows win. "We have to find a way to disrupt the ritual," he told Ode, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "Look." Ode pointed to a small table at the front, cluttered with strange objects, a book, candles, and symbols etched into the surface. "That must be where they're conducting the ritual." Jason nodded, adrenaline surging through him. "We need to get to that table." They pushed through the crowd, the chanting growing louder and more frenzied. Just as they reached the table, the leader's voice rang out. "Jason, you can't escape your fate. The shadows will consume you." Before Jason could respond, she waved her hand, and shadows surged toward him like a tidal wave. Instinctively, he grabbed a nearby candle and hurled it at the shadows. To his shock, the candle burst into flames, illuminating the darkness and sending the shadows retreating. The crowd gasped, and Jason seized the moment. "This ends now," he shouted, feeling the surge of power flow through him. With Ode by his side, he began to gather the items from the table, disrupting the ritual and breaking the cult's hold over the crowd. The members' eyes widened in disbelief as the shadows faltered. The leader, furious, lunged at Jason, but he dodged her grasp. "You won't control me any longer," he yelled, his voice echoing with newfound strength. As the energy in the room shifted, the shadows began to dissipate, and the members started to break free from their trance. Jason felt a rush of triumph as the cult's power waned, but he knew it wasn't over yet. "Let's get out of here," Ade shouted, pulling Jason toward the exit. They sprinted through the crowd, adrenaline propelling them forward as they burst into the cool night air. Outside, the streetlights flickered, illuminating the path ahead. Jason turned to Ade, his heart racing. "We did it. We disrupted the ritual." But just as he began to feel a sense of victory, a chilling laugh echoed behind them. Jason spun around to see the leader standing in the shadows, her eyes burning with fury. "You may have won this battle, Jason, but the shadows are far from defeated. They will always be a part of you." Jason's heart sank as her words hung in the air like a dark cloud. He realized that the fight was far from over, and the shadows would continue to haunt him. But in that moment, he also understood something vital: he had the power to confront them and reshape his narrative. "Let's go," he said to Ade, determination hardening within him. They would continue to fight against the darkness, together. After their harrowing escape from the Shadow Collective, Jason and Ade felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with dread. They had disrupted the cult's ritual, but they knew the leader's ominous words still lingered in the air. The shadows would not rest, they would come back with a vengeance. Back at Jason's apartment, they sat together on the couch, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. "What now?" Ade asked, his brow furrowed in concern. "They won't let this go." Jason nodded, anxiety gnawing at him. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move. We've only scratched the surface of their operations." As they brainstormed, a thought struck Jason. What if we investigate the cult further? Find out who their members are and how deep their influence runs. Ade's eyes lit up. That could work. We could gather evidence and expose them. But we need to be cautious, they're powerful and dangerous. Jason took a deep breath, determination coursing through him. We have to do this. We can't let them control us any longer. The next day, they began their investigation. They scoured online forums and social media looking for connections to the Shadow Collective. Hours turned into days as they delved deeper, but their efforts bore fruit when they discovered an underground network of former cult members. Jason and Ade reached out to several contacts, sharing their experiences and seeking information. One former member, a woman named Nkechi, agreed to meet them at a cafe in Lagos. She had managed to escape the cult's clutches and was willing to share her knowledge. When they arrived at the cafe, Jason felt a mix of anticipation and fear. They found Nkechi sitting at a corner table, her expression wary but determined. "Thank you for meeting us," Jason said, trying to sound confident. Nkechi nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "I know how dangerous the Shadow Collective can be. I barely escaped with my life." As they exchanged stories, Nkechi revealed the extent of the cult's reach. They manipulate people's fears and desires, using them as tools for their dark agenda. They thrive on the vulnerable. Jason's heart sank. That's exactly what happened to me. I was desperate for success, and they preyed on that. Nkechi leaned in, her voice serious. "You need to understand, they will come after you if they know you're a threat. You must stay vigilant." As they spoke, Jason felt a sense of camaraderie with Nkechi. She had faced the shadows and emerged stronger, just like he hoped to do. "How did you break free?" he asked, eager for guidance. Nkechi shared her story of resilience, emphasizing the importance of self-awareness and confronting her fears. "You can't let the shadows dictate your life. You have to fight back and reclaim your power." Inspired by her words, Jason felt a fire ignite within him. "I won't let them control me anymore. I'll fight for my freedom." But as they continued their conversation, Jason's phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was another anonymous account, and the message sent chills down his spine. "You can run, but you cannot hide." The shadows will find you. Panic surged through Jason. They are watching us, he exclaimed, showing the message to Ode and Nkechi. Nkechi's expression hardened. We need to leave. They might be tracking us. They quickly gathered their things and slipped out of the cafe, scanning the area for any signs of danger. As they walked, Jason's mind raced with fear and determination. He would not let the shadows win. In the following days, Jason, Ade, and Nkechi devised a plan to expose the Shadow Collective. They pooled their resources, determined to gather evidence that would shed light on the cult's operations and manipulate their members. With Nkechi's help, they connected with more former members willing to share their experiences. Each story they gathered added another layer to the dark tapestry of the Shadow Collective's influence, revealing the psychological games they played on unsuspecting victims. As their investigation deepened, they unearthed chilling details about the cult's rituals and sacrifices. Jason felt a growing sense of urgency. The more they learned, the more he realized the danger they were in. We need to present this information to the authorities, Ode suggested one evening as they pored over their findings. They can help us take them down. But we need solid proof, Nkechi replied, her eyes narrowing. We can't just go in with hearsay. The cult is powerful and will do anything to protect its secrets. Jason nodded, determination stealing within him. We'll gather everything we can, and then we'll go public. We have to warn others about the cult's manipulation. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly, interviewing former members and documenting their experiences. As they collected testimonies, Jason felt the shadows closing in, their presence lurking in the corners of his mind. One evening, as they were finalizing their evidence, a loud knock echoed through Jason's apartment. His heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with Ode and Nkechi. Who could that be? Stay quiet, Nkechi whispered, moving towards the door. With trembling hands, she peered through the peephole. It's them, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Jason felt a surge of panic. What do we do? Get out the back, Ode urged, leading the way. They quickly made their way through the back door, adrenaline propelling them forward. As they escaped into the night, Jason glanced back at his apartment, a sinking feeling in his stomach. The shadows were no longer just a metaphor, they were a tangible threat, and they were coming for him. With the cult closing in, Jason, Ade, and Nkechi found refuge in a small hotel on the outskirts of Lagos. They huddled in their room, hearts racing as they discussed their next steps. We need to finish gathering evidence and find a way to go public, Nkechi insisted, her eyes fierce. We can't let fear stop us. Jason nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. What if they find us fast? What if we are too late? We can't think like that, Ode said, placing a reassuring hand on Jason's shoulder. We've come too far to turn back now. That night, as they tried to sleep, Jason couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the building made his heart race, and shadows seemed to loom larger in the corners of the room. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside their window, jolting Jason awake. What was that? He whispered, eyes wide with fear. Nkechi moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. I think they're here. Jason's blood ran cold. What do we do? Stay low and keep quiet, Ode urged. We need to wait this out. As they huddled together, Jason's mind raced with thoughts of the cult and their ominous power. He couldn't allow himself to be consumed by fear, he needed to reclaim his life. Hours passed in tense silence until a sudden knock rattled the door. Open up. We know you're in there, a voice boomed from the other side. Panic surged through Jason as he exchanged frantic glances with Ode and Nkechi. They found us. Nkechi gritted her teeth. We have to fight back. Just as they were about to make a run for it, the door burst open, and several cloaked figures flooded into the room. Jason's heart dropped as he recognized the leader among them. You thought you could escape us, Jason, she sneered, a wicked smile spreading across her face. The shadows always find their prey. In the dim light of the hotel room, Jason felt a surge of panic. The shadows loomed larger as the cult members closed in, their eyes gleaming with a sinister glow. He had fought so hard to escape their grasp, but now, it seemed, they had cornered him once again. Let her go, Ade shouted, stepping protectively in front of Jason and Nkechi. The leader's laughter echoed through the room, chilling Jason to his core. Foolish boy. You think you can protect him? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Nkechi grabbed Jason's arm, her grip firm. We won't let you take him, she declared, her voice steady despite the fear radiating from her. The leader's expression twisted into one of rage. You think your bravery can shield you from the shadows? You're mistaken. As the cult members advanced, Jason felt a surge of adrenaline. He couldn't let fear dictate his actions any longer. You're wrong, he shouted, feeling the fire of determination ignite within him. I won't let you control me. With that, he pushed past Ade and Nkechi, confronting the leader head-on. I am not your pawn anymore. I will fight against the darkness. For a moment, the room fell silent, the tension palpable. Then, as if summoned by his declaration, shadows swirled around him, attempting to wrap him in their embrace. But Jason stood firm, focusing on the light within himself. I won't be consumed, he shouted, raising his hands as if to repel the shadows. To his surprise, a warm glow erupted from his palms, illuminating the room and pushing the shadows back. The cult members staggered, their expressions shifting from confidence to fear. Impossible, the leader spat, her eyes wide with disbelief. Seizing the opportunity, Jason turned to Ade and Nkechi. Now, we can expose them. With newfound courage, they rushed forward, gathering evidence from the cult members' belongings. As they documented the dark rituals and manipulations, the shadows began to recede, their power waning in the light. The leader, realizing her defeat, shrieked in fury. You can't do this. The shadows will return. But Jason stood tall, feeling the weight of the shadows lifting. Not if we can help it, he declared, determination etched on his face. As the cult members fled the room, Jason and his friends stood united, knowing they had taken the first step in reclaiming their lives. The shadows had not won, they had fought back, and together, they would continue to expose the darkness that threatened to engulf them. With evidence in hand, they planned to go public, to warn others about the Shadow Collective and its manipulations. Jason felt a sense of purpose blossoming within him. He was no longer a victim but a warrior against the shadows. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning of their battle. The shadows may have retreated, but their fight was far from over. As dawn broke over Lagos, Jason, Ade, and Nkechi gathered their evidence, ready to take the next step in their mission. The morning sun bathed the city in a warm glow, a stark contrast to the darkness they had just faced. Today, we go public, Jason declared, determination shining in his eyes. We'll expose the Shadow Collective for what they truly are. Ade nodded, his resolve matching Jason's. We have to warn others. They need to know about the cult's manipulations. Nkechi smiled, her spirit renewed. Together, we can make a difference. We can help others break free from their control. With their evidence compiled, they created a presentation outlining the cult's tactics and revealing testimonies from former members. They scheduled a press conference, eager to share their story with the world. As they prepared, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were still lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. But he pushed the thought aside, focusing on the light of their purpose. The press conference was held at a community center, filled with reporters eager to hear their story. As Jason stood at the podium, he felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. This was his moment to reclaim his narrative, to shine a light on the darkness that had consumed so many. Thank you for being here today, he began, his voice steady. We are here to expose the Shadow Collective, a cult that manipulates and preys on vulnerable individuals. He shared his story, detailing how he had been drawn into the cult's web, his struggles, and the journey to break free. The audience listened intently, a mix of shock and empathy filling the room. As he spoke, Jason felt a sense of liberation. This was more than just his story, it was a rallying cry for others who had suffered in silence. We must unite against the shadows, he urged. We must support each other and expose those who seek to control us. The crowd erupted in applause, then Jason's heart swelled with hope. He realized that he was not alone in this fight, together they could make a difference. After the conference, Jason felt a sense of accomplishment. They had reached people, igniting a spark of awareness in the community. But as he celebrated with Ode and Kechi, a message flashed on his phone, chilling him to the bone. You think you've won. The shadows never forget. Panic surged within him. They know, he breathed, fear creeping back in. Nkechi placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We can't let them intimidate us. We've come too far. Jason nodded, steeling himself. You're right. This fight is far from over, but we are stronger together. As they left the community center, Jason felt a renewed sense of purpose. The shadows may be relentless, but so was he. Together, they would face whatever darkness lay ahead. In the following weeks, Jason, Ade, and Kechi worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the Shadow Collective. They held community meetings, sharing their stories and educating others about the dangers of manipulation and cults. Their efforts gained traction, drawing attention from local media and support from the community. But as their movement grew, so did the cult's response. Anonymous threats began to surface, warnings that chilled Jason to the bone. You will pay for your defiance, one message read, and it left him shaken. Do you think they'll come after us? Ade asked one evening as they reviewed their plans. We have to be cautious, Nkechi replied, her brow furrowed with concern. They won't take this lying down. Jason felt a mix of fear and determination. We can't back down now. We've come too far to let them silence us. As they continued their outreach, Jason received a call from a local news station. They wanted to feature his story in a segment about cult awareness. It was a significant opportunity, but with it came the weight of potential danger. I think we should do it, Jason said, pacing the room. We can reach even more people. Ade hesitated. But what if it puts you at risk? The cult could retaliate. Jason's resolve only strengthened. I won't live in fear anymore. If we can save just one person from their clutches, it's worth the risk. On the day of the interview, Jason arrived at the studio, nerves churning in his stomach. He met with a reporter, a woman with a compassionate demeanor. Thank you for sharing your story, Jason. It takes a lot of courage to speak out. As the cameras rolled, Jason recounted his experiences, the manipulation, and the darkness that had nearly consumed him. He spoke of the importance of community support and the need to stand against such cults. When the interview aired, the response was overwhelming. Viewers reached out, sharing their own stories and thanking Jason for shedding light on a hidden issue. But amidst the support, the threats continued, growing more sinister. One night, Jason returned home to find his apartment door ajar. Heart racing, he stepped inside, every instinct screaming at him to be cautious. The room felt eerily quiet, shadows creeping along the walls. Hello, he called, his voice trembling. No response. He stepped further into the apartment, only to find his belongings rifled through, evidence of a struggle evident. Panic surged as he realized the cult was getting closer, their shadows creeping ever more into his life. Just then, his phone buzzed, a message lighting up the screen. You've made a grave mistake, Jason. The shadows will consume you. Jason's heart pounded in his chest. He needed to warn Ade and Kechi. As he rushed to call them, a figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light. "Did you really think you could escape us?" the voice taunted, sending chills down Jason's spine. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, one he had thought he'd left behind. It was Mark, a former member of the cult who had once been his ally but had betrayed him when he needed help most. "Mark," Jason breathed, a mix of disbelief and anger flooding through him. "I thought you were gone." Mark smirked, the shadows swirling around him as if feeding off his malevolence. "Gone? No, Jason. I've been waiting. Waiting for you to realize the futility of your defiance." Jason clenched his fists, feeling a surge of anger. "You don't scare me anymore. I know your games." "Oh, but you should be scared," Mark said, stepping closer. "You have no idea what you're up against. The shadows are always watching, always listening. You've stirred something you can't control." With a swift motion, Mark pulled out a small, glimmering object from his pocket, a pendant that radiated an eerie energy. "This belongs to you," he said, tossing it at Jason's feet. "It's a reminder of your past, a past that will always haunt you." Jason stared at the pendant, feeling its dark energy pulling at him. Memories flooded back, moments of vulnerability and manipulation that he had fought so hard to escape. "You think you can intimidate me?" he shot back, defiance rising within him. "I've overcome the shadows before, and I'll do it again." Mark laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the room. "You think this is over? This is only the beginning. You'll see, soon, you'll wish you never crossed us." With that, he turned and fled into the darkness, leaving Jason standing alone, heart racing and thoughts swirling. "What just happened?" he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of Mark's words pressing down on him. Jason knew he had to reach Ade and Kechi. They needed to be prepared for whatever the cult was planning. Grabbing his phone, he dialed their numbers, urgency coursing through him. "We need to meet now," he said when they answered, panic lacing his voice. "Is everything okay?" Ade asked, concern evident. "No. They found me, and I don't know how much time we have." Does Jason have time before the cult get hold of him? It will be a tense final showdown. Join us to find out.